It was supposed to be a quiet morning, the kind where the air inside the church feels soft and time slows down, where footsteps echo gently and every breath feels respectful, and no one there expected anything unusual to happen because the service had already begun the same way it always did, with bowed heads, calm voices, and a deep sense of peace. Yet hidden beneath that calm was a moment waiting to explode, because just as the congregation settled into silence, a sudden disturbance cut through the room. Not loud at first, but sharp enough to make people lift their heads. A tension that spread quickly as a small group at the back began moving forward with faces tight and eyes burning with purpose. And in those seconds, no one knew what they wanted, only that something felt wrong, because churches are places of trust and stillness, not confrontation. And when they reached the altar area, the air changed instantly. People froze, children clutched their parents, and the priest paused mid-motion, because the focus of the entire room had suddenly shifted to one sacred object, the Eucharist, resting quietly as it had for centuries, symbolizing faith, sacrifice, and unity to millions. And the group's intention became clear in a way that made hearts pound, because their gestures were not curious or confused, but aggressive and deliberate. And whispers rushed through the crowd as fear mixed with disbelief, because no one could understand why anyone would come into a holy place just to break it apart. And in that moment, the line between peace and chaos vanished, because voices rose, hands reached out, and for a brief, terrifying instant, it looked like the Eucharist would be destroyed right there in front of everyone, an act that would shatter not just a ritual, but the emotional core of the people watching. And the shock was not only about the act itself, but about the location. Because there are some places where conflict feels impossible until it suddenly isn't, and the room seemed to hold its breath as if the walls themselves were waiting to see what would happen next. Because history has taught people that moments like this often end badly, with violence or deep wounds that never heal. Yet this story did not follow that path, because just when everything seemed lost, when anger and fear were seconds away from colliding, something unbelievable happened that no one present could have predicted. Something so unexpected that it changed the direction of the entire event. Because instead of panic turning into violence, a quiet but powerful response rose from the crowd, not shouted, but felt. As people began to pray aloud, softly at first, then stronger, their voices overlapping, not in chaos, but in unity. And this response seemed to stop time itself, because the group froze, their movement slowed, their expressions shifting, as if they were suddenly aware of something they had not expected, something they were not prepared to face. And in that stillness, the priest stepped forward, not with anger, not with fear, but with calm, holding the Eucharist carefully and speaking in a steady voice that carried across the room words about peace, dignity, and the weight of the moment. And it was in that exact second that the atmosphere changed completely, because whatever force had driven the disruption seemed to lose its grip, as if the intention to destroy met something stronger, something unseen yet undeniable. And people later said they felt it. A pressure in the chest, a warmth, a silence that was not empty but full. And the group slowly stepped back, confusion replacing aggression, until security arrived, not to fight, but to guide them out. And when the doors finally closed, the room stood frozen, stunned by the realization that what could have become a tragedy had transformed into something else entirely. Something that felt like protection, like grace, like a reminder that faith is not only fragile, but resilient in ways that logic cannot explain. Afterward, no one rushed to leave, because everyone knew they had witnessed something that would stay with them forever, a moment that would be talked about in whispers and remembered in prayers. Because the unbelievable part was not just that the Eucharist was protected, but that hatred did not win, that violence did not take over, that a sacred space survived an attack without becoming a battlefield. And as people slowly returned to their seats, faces wet with tears and hands trembling, the service continued, not as planned, but deeper, heavier, more meaningful. Because when something precious is almost lost, its value becomes clearer than ever. And news of what happened spread quickly beyond those walls, sparking debate, disbelief, and reflection. With some asking how such a thing could happen, and others asking how it could end that way. And the answer depended on who you asked, because some spoke of courage, others of discipline, others of divine intervention, but all agreed on one thing: that the outcome defied expectations. Because in a world filled with division, this moment showed a different ending, one where restraint defeated rage and calm overcame chaos. And the incident became a symbol, not of destruction, but of resistance through peace, reminding people that faith is tested most when it is threatened, and that the strongest response is not always force, but conviction. And as conversations grew online and opinions clashed, the story continued to live, not as a warning alone, but as a lesson. Because what happened inside that church challenged assumptions about how conflict must end and whether sacred things can survive modern anger. And the answer, at least that day, was yes. And if this story made you pause, if it made you question how you would react in a moment like that, or reminded you of the power of restraint and belief, then take a second to reflect, share your thoughts, and stay connected, because stories like this matter, and the way we respond to them shapes what happens next. As the hours passed and the church slowly emptied, the weight of what had happened did not disappear, but instead followed everyone home, settling into conversations at dinner tables, quiet thoughts before sleep, and messages shared between friends who struggled to find the right words. Because when something sacred is nearly broken and then spared, it leaves behind questions that are deeper than fear. Questions about why people act the way they do, and what truly stops destruction when it feels inevitable. And many who were there later said the most powerful part was not the interruption itself, but the moment when anger lost control, because it exposed how fragile peace can be, and yet how strong it becomes when people choose not to let fear decide the ending. And days later, the church doors opened again to a fuller crowd than usual. Not because of curiosity alone, but because people wanted to stand in the same space and feel that calm again, to remind themselves that what they believe in can survive being challenged. And the priest spoke openly about forgiveness and courage, not hiding the event or turning it into a spectacle, but framing it as a test that revealed the heart of the community. And some who had never attended before came simply to understand what could stop a moment of destruction without violence. And even those who disagreed with the beliefs represented there admitted that the response changed how they viewed conflict, because the expected ending would have been shouting, arrests, or bloodshed. Yet what unfolded instead was restraint and unity. And that contrast made the story spread further, not as a rumor, but as a reminder that reactions matter more than provocations. And over time, the moment became less about who tried to disrupt and more about how the disruption was answered, because history remembers outcomes, not just intentions. And as the months went by, the Eucharist remained where it had always been, unchanged, yet carrying a heavier meaning for those who saw it that day, a symbol not only of faith, but of survival. And if there is one thing this story leaves behind, it is this: that calm can be louder than chaos, that belief can stand firm without striking back, and that even when lines are crossed, the ending is not always written by those who try to break what others hold sacred. And if this story moved you, challenged you, or made you see moments of conflict differently, take a moment to reflect, share it with others, and stay connected for more stories that reveal how unexpected choices can change everything.